AITA for telling my sister she can't name her baby after my late wife. So my 32M wife, Emma, passed away 3 years ago after a long battle with a rare heart condition. We were together for almost 10 years, married for 4. She was the kindest, most patient, and funniest person I've ever known. Losing her wrecked me. I'm not being dramatic when I say that I didn't know how to function for months. I went to therapy, took time off work, and slowly learned how to live again. My family was supportive during that time, especially my younger sister, Leah, 29F. She came over almost every day, brought me food, helped me clean, and just sat with me when I couldn't talk. I'll always be grateful for that. Fast forward to now. Leah is married and expecting her first child. She announced the pregnancy last spring, and everyone in the family was thrilled. A couple of weeks ago, she hosted a gender reveal dinner and shared that it's a girl. Everyone cheered and hugged her, and then she dropped what she thought would be a sweet surprise. She said she already picked the name, Emma. I froze. The room went quiet, and I could feel every pair of eyes flick toward me. Leah was smiling at me, almost teary, and said, "I wanted to honor her because she meant so much to all of us, and I know how much you loved her." I just sat there in shock. My mother started crying, saying it was beautiful. My dad clapped Leah on the shoulder and said Emma would have loved it, and I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. After the dinner, Leah pulled me aside to ask what I thought. I tried to be polite, but said something like, "It's a lovely thought, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with it." She looked confused and asked why. I told her that Emma's name is still deeply tied to grief for me, and I'm still not in a place where hearing it every day, especially associated with a new baby, would feel right. It's like it would overwrite the memories I have of my wife. Leah said she understood, but that it meant a lot to her and her husband, too, because they both loved Emma and saw her as part of the family. She said naming their daughter after her would keep her memory alive. I told her that I appreciate the sentiment, but for me, it doesn't feel like honoring her. It feels like replacing her. I asked if she could choose another name, maybe something inspired by her, but not her actual name. Leah got really quiet and said, "So you're forbidding me from naming my child what I want?" I said I wasn't forbidding anything, just asking for some sensitivity. She got upset and said I was making her pregnancy about my grief. I told her that I wasn't trying to, but she'd chosen the one name in the world that cuts me like a knife every time I hear it. Things have been tense since then. My mom called me the next day and said she thought I was being selfish. She said Leah's gesture was beautiful and that Emma would have been touched. I told her that maybe Emma would have been, but Emma's not here, and I'm the one who has to live with that name being a constant reminder of what I lost. My mom said that grief doesn't give me ownership of a name. For a few weeks, we didn't talk much. Then last weekend, I went over for dinner at my parents' place. Leah was there with her husband, and my mom casually mentioned baby Emma. I guess they decided to go with the name anyway. I felt my stomach drop, but I didn't want to cause a scene. I just quietly said, "I told you how I felt about that." Leah looked uncomfortable and said, "I'm sorry, but we love the name." I told her that's her choice, but she shouldn't expect me to pretend it doesn't hurt. My mom snapped that I was ruining the family dinner, and my dad told me to stop being dramatic. I left early. Later that night, Leah texted me saying she really didn't mean to hurt me and that she thought after some time I'd come around. I told her I needed space. She said she's worried I won't want to see her baby when she's born. I didn't respond because, honestly, I don't know. Here's the thing. I'm not angry at Leah for loving my wife's memory. I'm angry that she heard me say something was painful for me and decided to do it anyway, because it made her feel good. My therapist says I have a right to set boundaries, but my family thinks I'm cold and bitter. They keep saying it's just a name, and that I should take it as a sign of love. But every time I picture holding that baby and hearing someone say, "Emma, I don't see a baby," I see my wife hooked up to machines in the hospital. I hear the sound of her last breath. It's not something I can just get over because the intention was sweet. Now, Leah's due in about a month, and my mom has already started planning a baby shower. She asked if I'd be there. I said I'd think about it, but she could tell from my tone that I didn't want to go. She told me I was punishing Leah for trying to do something kind. I told her that kindness isn't kindness if it ignores someone's pain. She hung up on me. Part of me feels like I'm standing my ground for the first time since Emma died. Another part of me wonders if I'm letting grief turn me into someone bitter and small. I don't want to alienate my family, but I also can't pretend this doesn't hurt. I don't know how to be around them if every mention of the baby reminds me of what I've lost. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister she can't name her baby after my late wife, and for stepping back from the family because she did it anyway? If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she announced she's marrying my ex-fiancé. I, 29F, have an older sister, Jenna, 32F, who has always been the golden child in our family. She was the first to get into a good college, land a fancy job, buy a house, and generally just be the one everyone looked up to. I've always been more low-key, working in graphic design, renting a small apartment, and living a simple life. We were close growing up, but there's always been this quiet tension, not overt jealousy, more like an unspoken competition that I never signed up for. 4 years ago, I was engaged to my ex, Ryan, 31M. We dated for 3 years before he proposed. Things were good at first, though we had our share of normal relationship issues, mostly him being a bit flirtatious and me being a little insecure. Still, I loved him and genuinely thought we'd spend our lives together. Then, a month before our wedding, he broke things off, completely blindsided me. He said he wasn't ready for marriage and that he needed time to figure himself out. It was humiliating. We'd already sent invitations, booked venues, and I had a dress. I was devastated. My sister was supportive at the time, constantly checking in, coming over with wine, helping me pack up the apartment I was supposed to share with him. She told me I deserved better, that he was an idiot. Fast forward to this past February. Jenna called me one night and said she had something important to tell me. I thought she was going to announce a promotion or something. Instead, she tells me she's been seeing someone and that it's serious. When she said his name, Ryan, I literally thought I misheard her. I laughed nervously, waiting for her to say it was a joke. But she didn't. She told me that after my breakup, Ryan reached out to her for closure, and they just clicked. I felt like someone had punched me. She said they didn't start dating until a year after he and I split, which I later found out was a lie. Texts and social media timestamps show they were in contact much sooner. I confronted her about it, and she got defensive, saying, "We can't control who we fall in love with." I asked how she could betray me like that, and she said she didn't know me control over her love life. My parents' reactions were mixed. My dad was furious with Jenna at first, saying it was unforgivable. My mom, on the other hand, said love is complicated and that maybe it was meant to be. The family tension was horrible for months. AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move into my house even though I have the space. So I, 34F, bought my first home last year after saving for nearly a decade. It's a modest 4-bedroom in a quiet suburb. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. I live alone with my dog, and one of the extra rooms is my office since I work remotely. Another is a guest room, and the last one I've been slowly converting into a hobby room where I paint and store some vintage furniture I've been restoring. My sister, Laura, 38F, has 3 kids, 12M, 9F, and 6F. She separated from her husband about 5 months ago. The separation was messy. Her ex, Paul, cheated, and after a long argument, he kicked her and the kids out of the house. She moved into our parents' home temporarily. My parents love her, but they're retired and live in a small 2-bedroom condo. It's been crowded and tense. About a month ago, Laura asked if she and the kids could move in with me just for a few months while she gets back on her feet. She said she couldn't find an affordable rental nearby that would allow her to keep the kids in their current school district. I told her I'd think about it because I wanted to be fair, but honestly, I was hesitant from the start. My sister has a history of being a bit entitled. Growing up, she was always the favorite because she had kids early and needed help more often. I've always been the one expected to drop everything to help her, lend money, babysit, etc. When I told her I need to set some boundaries before agreeing, she got defensive. I said if she moved in, she'd need to pay a small portion of utilities, clean up after her kids, and respect that I work from home and need quiet during the day. She immediately said she couldn't afford to contribute anything and that family shouldn't charge family. I told her I wasn't asking for rent, just a bit toward bills, because for more people would increase costs. She rolled her eyes and said, "You make way more than me. Don't act like you're struggling." That rubbed me the wrong way. After thinking about it for a week, I decided to tell her no. I said I loved her and the kids, but I needed my home to remain a peaceful place, especially since I work there. I offered to help her look for affordable housing options or to co-sign a lease if that would help. She lost it. She started crying and yelling that I was abandoning her in her time of need and that a good sister would open her doors. My parents got involved and told me I should reconsider because she's family and the kids shouldn't have to live in such cramped conditions. I told them that I sympathized, but my house is not a crash pad. My mom said I was being cold and that if the roles were reversed, Laura would take you in. That's the thing. I don't believe she would. A few years ago, when my apartment building had a plumbing issue and I couldn't stay there for a week, she wouldn't let me crash at her place because the kids needed their routine. I ended up paying for a hotel. Since then, my entire family, except one cousin who quietly told me I did the right thing, has been calling me selfish. My dad said I don't understand what it's like to be a parent. My mom keeps guilt-tripping me with lines like, "Those poor kids didn't ask for any of this." Laura has been posting cryptic Facebook statuses about how some people only love you when it's convenient. Even one of my coworkers, who's friends with her on Facebook, asked me if it's true that I kicked out my sister. It's gotten that bad. Here's the thing, I do feel guilty. The idea of my nieces and nephews sleeping on a pull-out couch at my parents' tiny place makes me sad. But at the same time, I worked incredibly hard for my home. I'm finally in a place where I have peace and privacy, and the thought of losing that because my sister expects me to be a built-in safety net stresses me out. It's not even about money, it's about boundaries. When I imagine what it would be like, I picture chaos, toys everywhere, noise all day, my office turned into a shared bedroom, constant interruptions during meetings. And based on past behavior, I know Laura wouldn't enforce discipline or boundaries with her kids. Last week, she came over unannounced with the kids, thinking she could show me how well they behave. The kids ran around my house. One of them knocked over a lamp, and Laura just laughed and said, "See, they're good kids." I told her I wasn't changing my mind. She left in tears and told me I was heartless. Since then, she hasn't spoken to me, and my mom keeps calling, begging me to just let them stay for a few months. I'm torn. Part of me feels like I should just suck it up because family is family. But another part of me feels like this is exactly why I've struggled with setting boundaries for years. Every time I give in, I end up resentful and drained. I know how this would go. A few months would become a year, my house would turn into chaos, and when I eventually asked them to leave, I'd be the villain anyway. To make matters worse, Laura recently got a small settlement from her separation, enough to put down a deposit somewhere, but she insists she wants to save it for emergencies. I tried pointing out that housing is an emergency, but she accused me of judging how she spent her money. My parents won't say it out loud, but I think they believe I'm too proud of my success and don't understand family obligations. Last night my dad called and told me Laura found a short-term rental an hour away, but can't afford the commute for the kids' school. He asked again if I'd reconsider just until summer. I said no. He hung up on me. I haven't heard from anyone since. I spent the rest of the evening staring at my house and feeling weirdly guilty for enjoying the quiet. So now I'm wondering, am I being too rigid? Should I have agreed, at least for a little while, to help her transition? Or am I right that setting this boundary doesn't make me a bad sister, just a person who finally values her peace? AITA for refusing to let my sister and her kids move in even though I technically have a space. AITA for refusing to babysit my brother's kids after he told my wife she was playing house instead of having a real job. I, 33 am, have a younger brother Jake, 30M, who has always had a bit of a superiority complex. He's the kind of person who thinks he's the smartest in every room, that his life choices are the gold standard, and that everyone else is just figuring it out. We were raised by hardworking parents who did their best, but Jake was always the golden child. He got into a fancy college, landed a job at a well-known consulting firm, and he never lets anyone forget it. I, on the other hand, took a different path. I didn't finish college and instead started my own small carpentry business. It's honest work, I enjoy it, and I do pretty well for myself. I married my wife, Emma, 31F, 5 years ago. She's a preschool teacher and absolutely loves her job. We don't have kids yet, but we've been saving for a house and taking life one step at a time. Jake got married 3 years ago to his wife, Lauren, 29F. They have 2 little kids, ages 3 and 1. My parents live a few hours away, so I've become the go-to person whenever Jake and Lauren need a babysitter or help at their house. I don't mind helping family, but it's gotten to the point where they expect me to drop everything for them. If I say no, I get guilt-tripped about how family helps family. The situation came to a head last month. Jake and Lauren had an anniversary dinner planned and asked if I could watch the kids for the evening. I told them I could, but I need to leave by 10 p.m. since I had an early morning job. Jake agreed. The day comes, and I show up at their place around 6 p.m. Emma came with me because she adores their kids and thought it would be fun to help. Around 9:30, I texted Jake to ask when they'd be back. He said soon. By 10:30, I texted again and got no response. By 11:30, I was getting irritated. Finally, around 12:15 a.m., they walked in laughing and clearly tipsy. Jake goes, "Oh, come on, man, what's a couple more hours? You didn't have anything that important tomorrow." I told him that wasn't cool and that I had an early client meeting. He brushed it off and turned to Emma, saying, "You're lucky you don't have to worry about that kind of thing, huh? Must be nice to play house all day instead of dealing with real work stress." Emma went dead silent. She smiled awkwardly, grabbed her purse, and walked out to the car. I was stunned. I told Jake that was an incredibly disrespectful thing to say. He laughed and said, "Relax, it's not that deep. She teaches toddlers how to color, not exactly brain surgery." I left without saying another word. The next day, Jake texted me saying I was being too sensitive and that I shouldn't let small talk ruin family dynamics. I told him that until he apologized to Emma, I wouldn't be helping him with the kids again. He blew up. He accused me of being dramatic, said Emma needed thicker skin, and that I was using his kids as leverage in an argument. My parents got involved and tried to mediate, but of course they took Jake's side, saying he didn't mean it and that I shouldn't punish the kids for adult problems. He stood firm. For the past few weeks, Jake and Lauren have been scrambling for childcare, and apparently, it's been tough on them. My mom keeps calling, saying, "Just help them out this one time, they're stressed." I told her I'd help again when Jake can acknowledge what he said was wrong. Then last weekend, we were all at a family barbecue at my parents' house. Jake was there, and he acted like nothing had happened. He started telling a story about how soft people get offended over everything these days. He made eye contact with me mid-story. Everyone laughed awkwardly. Emma squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "Let it go, it's not worth it." But I couldn't. I told him in front of everyone that I wasn't babysitting for him ever again, and that he could find someone else to play house with his kids. It got really quiet. Jake called me an **** and said I was making things awkward for everyone. After the barbecue, I got a long text from Lauren saying she's disappointed in me, that I'm punishing their kids over an offhand comment, and that she thought I was better than that. My parents said I escalated things by bringing it up publicly and that I should have just moved on. But I'm tired of always being the one who gets disrespected. I've dropped everything countless times to help them. I've fixed their fence, their leaky sink, helped paint their house, and spent weekends watching their kids. All while being told my job isn't real work and my wife's profession is just babysitting. Emma told me she's proud of me for standing up for her, but I can tell the situation bothers her. She's not the kind of person who likes conflict, and she keeps saying she doesn't want to be the reason for a family rift. I told her she's not. Jake's words caused this, not her feelings. Now, Jake is giving me the silent treatment. My parents are saying I should take the high road and be the bigger person. I told them I've done that for years, and maybe it's time for Jake to try for once. Still, part of me wonders if I should have just swallowed my pride for the sake of peace. Family is complicated, and I don't want to lose my relationship with my nieces and nephews over something that maybe could have been resolved differently. But another part of me thinks, if I let it slide again, what message does that send to Emma? That it's okay for my family to insult her as long as they don't mean it. So now I'm stuck. I haven't talked to Jake since the barbecue, and my parents are still urging me to fix things. But I don't see why I should be the one to apologize when all I did was set a boundary after he crossed a line. AITA for refusing to babysit until my brother apologizes to my wife. AITA for refusing to let my sister's wedding ruin my career opportunity. I, 29M, work in a very niche field, software for medical imaging, and I've spent the last 5 years working my way up at a company that is extremely competitive. Last month, I got an interview for a lead position at another firm in a different city. This is basically a dream role for me. More responsibility, better pay, and the chance to finally lead a team on projects that could genuinely impact patient care. The problem is that my younger sister, Jenna, 26F, is getting married the weekend that the final stage of the interview process is scheduled. To make things more complicated, she's always been dramatic and very controlling about her wedding. She spent the last year micromanaging every detail, and I've always gone along with it because she genuinely struggles with anxiety and perfectionism. But this time, it's different. When I told Jenna about my interview, she was excited at first, but when I explained that the final interview stage would likely take the entire weekend, she immediately got upset. She started reminding me that she's her big day, and that family is supposed to come first. She said that if I wasn't there, it would ruin everything. I reminded her that I've been a supportive brother for her entire life, and that I've never once missed family events without a very good reason. But this was my dream job opportunity. She said it didn't matter, that I was being selfish, and that if I didn't attend, she would never forgive me. I tried to compromise. I offered to come for the ceremony only, or to attend virtually if she wanted me to give a speech over Zoom. She shot both ideas down. She said the ceremony and reception were sacred and that my absence would be noticed and remembered forever. At this point, the argument became tense, with both of us raising our voices. She accused me of caring more about my career than my family, and I reminded her that my career has been my primary way of supporting both of us over the years. She then brought up old grievances, things like how I didn't help her with her college tuition when our parents were tight on money, or how I didn't attend every single family gathering growing up, and basically turned the conversation into a list of my alleged failures as a brother. I tried to explain that I understand the wedding is important to her, but I can't let a once-in-a-lifetime career opportunity pass me by, especially since this role could significantly improve my long-term financial stability. I said that if she couldn't understand my perspective, I would have to prioritize the interview. She screamed that this made me heartless and a terrible brother, and that our parents were going to be so disappointed in me. My parents got involved at this point. They called me to ask if I could just reschedule the interview or somehow make it work around the wedding. I explained that the interview dates were firm and coordinated across multiple senior leaders in the company, so rescheduling wasn't really an option. I offered to fly in immediately after the interview to still attend the reception, but my sister insisted that showing up late was disrespectful and that I wouldn't be a real part of the celebration if I did that. Eventually, I made the hard decision to attend the interview and miss the wedding. I flew to the new city, completed the final round of interviews, and got offered the position by the end of the week. I was over the moon because it felt like a validation of all the hard work I had put in over the years. I immediately called my parents and explained that I had taken the role and that it required me to relocate. I thought they would be happy for me, but instead, they expressed disappointment that I hadn't attended the wedding and said that Jenna was devastated and had cut me out of the family for a while. I called Jenna to try to smooth things over and explain that this wasn't about her. It was about a career opportunity one literally couldn't turn down. She accused me of prioritizing money and ambition over her happiness and said that I had betrayed her in the worst possible way. She said that our relationship was irreparably damaged and that I shouldn't expect to be invited to any family events for the foreseeable future. Since then, my parents have been split. My mom says they wish I had made a different choice and insinuates that I should have at least asked the company to reschedule, even though I explained that it was impossible. My dad has been quieter, but seems disappointed as well. I've tried messaging Jenna to explain that I still love her and want a relationship, but she either ignores me or sends passive-aggressive messages about how career is nice, but family is forever. My friends tell me I did the right thing because this was a professional opportunity that I worked years to earn, and that missing it could have set me back in a career that matters to me. I've had sleepless nights about it because I never want to hurt my sister, but I also feel like my life is my own and that sometimes family expectations shouldn't dictate every decision. I guess I'm just struggling with guilt because I know my sister is hurt and my parents are disappointed. Part of me wonders if I should have handled it differently or if I should have tried even harder to be physically present. But another part of me thinks I did what was necessary for my future, and that sometimes you can't let family obligations derail life-changing opportunities. So, Reddit, AITA for missing my sister's wedding to attend a career-defining interview, even though it hurt her feelings and upset my parents. Character count, 6692 if you want. I can also craft another one with a more dramatic family twist, which tends to get even more engagement on Reddit AITA threads. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she publicly shamed me over my weight. I, 28F, have always struggled with my weight. I've been on and off diets, tried different workouts, and have made a lot of progress in terms of health, even if the scale doesn't always reflect it. My family knows about my struggles, and while some of them are supportive, others are less so. My younger sister, Emily, 25F, has always been particularly critical. She's very fit, very image-conscious, and tends to make comments about appearance that, at first, I brushed off as sibling teasing, but over the years, they've become more pointed. Emily got engaged about 8 months ago, and as soon as she announced it, she started planning her wedding in excruciating detail. I was genuinely happy for her, and I offered to help in any way I could. However, things took a turn when the seating arrangements came up. Emily initially asked me to sit at a table with my fiancé, Mike, 30M, and some distant relatives, which I didn't think much of. A week later, she called me and said she had reconsidered and wanted me to sit at a different table, closer to the back. I asked why, and she said it was because people might get uncomfortable seeing someone who isn't going to fit in. I was stunned. I asked her to clarify, and she said, "You know your size. I just don't want it to be distracting on photos or for my friends." I told her I was hurt and offended, but she laughed it off, saying, "Come on, it's just a seating thing. Don't be dramatic." I didn't respond much because I was trying to process what she had just said. Over the next few months, her wedding planning became a nightmare for me. She constantly commented on my clothes, telling me what I could and couldn't wear. She criticized my makeup choices and my hair, saying it would ruin photos. Whenever I tried to suggest something that might make me comfortable, she dismissed it as not elegant enough. My fiancé, Mike, tried to defend me on several occasions, but Emily brushed him off as well. 2 weeks ago, the final dress fitting for the bridesmaids happened. I'm not a bridesmaid, but Emily insisted I come so I could coordinate with everyone else for photos and group shots. I wore a dress I thought was fine, and when I walked in, Emily immediately gasped. She looked me up and down and loudly said, "Wow, I didn't realize it would hang like that. You really need to lose weight if you want to wear something like this." The room went silent. Everyone was looking at me. I could feel my face burning, and I wanted to disappear. I tried to laugh it off, but Emily kept going, saying things like, maybe a different color would hide it better, and, "Do you want me to order a different dress for you? I don't want you in pictures looking uncomfortable." I left immediately and didn't go back. When I told Mike what happened, he was furious. He wanted me to call her and confront her, but I didn't feel like arguing with someone who clearly didn't respect me. Instead, I decided I would attend the wedding but keep a low profile, hoping to avoid any more comments. Last night, Emily sent a group text to all the family members attending the wedding, saying that she was reconsidering seating arrangements and guest interactions. In the message, she wrote, "I know some people might be uncomfortable around certain family members, and I want to make sure everyone is happy and comfortable." Then she tagged me, implying that my presence might make others uncomfortable. I was done. I called her and told her that I would not be attending her wedding. I explained that her repeated comments about my weight were humiliating, that she had publicly shamed me multiple times, and that I would not subject myself to that on what was supposed to be a happy day. She started yelling, calling me selfish and dramatic, and accused me of ruining her wedding. She said I was making everything about myself and that I was being unreasonable. I told her that her wedding was about her, not about my feelings, but the way she treated me wasn't acceptable. I also said that a healthy relationship between sisters requires respect, and I wasn't getting that from her. She hung up on me and later sent a text saying, "I guess I'll just celebrate without you, but don't expect a relationship after this." Now, my parents are involved. They say I'm overreacting and that I should just ignore her comments for one day. They think I'm being dramatic and that I'm missing out on an important family event. My friends and coworkers have been supportive, saying that I have every right to set boundaries and that I shouldn't tolerate being publicly shamed. I'm torn because part of me wants to attend for the sake of family unity, but another part of me feels like showing up would validate her behavior. I don't want to go to a wedding where I am being openly humiliated, but I also worry about my parents' disappointment and the potential long-term fallout with Emily. So, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because of how she's treated me regarding my weight. I'm aware that weddings are stressful and people have visions, but I can't ignore the fact that this has been going on for years and escalated to public humiliation. I just don't know if I'm overreacting or if I'm justified in setting this boundary. The story has caused a huge divide in my family. Some think I'm protecting myself, while others think I'm making the situation worse. I need a perspective outside of the emotional chaos surrounding this. AITA for refusing to let my younger sister stay in my house after she needed a break from her life. So, this is going to be long, but I really need some outside perspective because my family is acting like I'm the villain here, and I honestly don't see it. I, 32M, have a younger sister, Emily, 26F, and over the past few years, we've had a complicated relationship. Growing up, Emily was always a little reckless and impulsive, while I was the responsible sibling who liked things organized and planned. I think that dynamic carried over into adulthood. A few months ago, Emily called me out of the blue. She sounded stressed and frantic and said she needed a break from life and didn't have anywhere else to go. I live alone in a moderately sized apartment in the city, and while I love my sister, I also really value my personal space. I asked her what she meant by a break, and she explained that she had been having trouble at work, recently ended a complicated relationship, and was feeling overwhelmed by everything. She asked if she could stay with me for a little while, maybe a week or two, just to get her head straight. I hesitated, but I felt guilty saying no. My parents had always told me I should be there for her, and part of me genuinely wanted to help. So I agreed, but I laid out some ground rules. She couldn't bring any of her friends over. She had to contribute to groceries. She couldn't leave her stuff all over my apartment, and she had to respect my work schedule because I work from home. She agreed enthusiastically, and I thought that would be the end of it. The first few days were fine. We cooked together, talked, and I tried to be supportive. But by the fourth day, things started to unravel. She began bringing friends over without asking, one of whom stayed overnight. My work started getting interrupted because she would play loud music or watch TV in the living room while I was on calls. She started leaving her laundry all over the apartment, eating my food without asking, and even borrowed my car without telling me. I confronted her a couple of times, and each time she would apologize but then act like it wasn't a big deal. I tried to be patient, thinking this was temporary, but it quickly became unbearable. By the end of the first week, I realized that her break wasn't going to be short-term. I told her she needed to find another place to stay and that she couldn't stay with me anymore. She flipped out. She accused me of being cold, selfish, and unsupportive. She said I didn't care about her mental health and that my apartment had suddenly become a hostile environment. My parents got involved at this point. They called me repeatedly, asking why I was kicking my sister out when she was clearly struggling. Emily called me crying every day, and her friends messaged me saying I was emotionally abusive. I started feeling cornered and guilty, but I still didn't feel like I did anything wrong. The breaking point was a few days after I told her she had to leave. She came home drunk late one night, argued with me about how ungrateful I was, and then knocked over a lamp in my living room during the argument. Nothing was seriously damaged, but it was a moment of clarity for me. I realized I couldn't have someone living in my home who wasn't respecting my boundaries and was creating chaos. I told her firmly that she could not stay with me anymore, and if she couldn't find a place, she would have to stay with our parents or a friend. She left that night after a tense confrontation. Since then, things have been icy. My parents are upset with me, claiming I should have handled it differently and been more compassionate. Emily hasn't spoken to me much, though she occasionally posts vague statuses on social media that seem aimed at me. Friends and colleagues who know the situation have mostly supported me, saying I was reasonable to protect my space, but I can't shake the guilt. I keep thinking maybe I should have found a way to help her without kicking her out, but honestly, I don't see how that would have worked given how she was behaving. I should also mention some context that my parents keep bringing up. They point out that when I was in a rough spot financially a few years ago, Emily let me stay in her small apartment for several months without complaint. They say this gives her some kind of moral claim to my apartment now. I told them that I respected her space and helped in ways that were possible, but that doesn't obligate me to do the same if it's going to disrupt my life completely. I guess I'm just frustrated because it feels like no one is willing to see it from my perspective. I try to be supportive, set clear boundaries, and communicate openly, but none of that mattered. Now my family acts like I'm cruel for refusing to let my sister overstay her welcome, and Emily seems to be leaning into portraying me as the villain. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to let my sister stay in my house after she said she needed a break, even though she became disrespectful and broke boundaries. Character count, 6,237 if you want. I can write an even longer version closer to 7,000 characters that adds more emotional detail and family dynamics to make it feel like one of the highest engagement AITA stories. It would read like a true viral Reddit post. Do you want me to do that? AITA for refusing to let my sister's husband move in after their separation, even though my parents want me to accommodate him. So, this has been going on for a while, and I feel like I need to get it off my chest because the family drama is escalating, and now I'm being called selfish. I, 29M, live alone in a decent 2-bedroom apartment in a mid-sized city. I've been living independently for about 6 years now, and I really value my space and routine. I'm pretty introverted, and having my own home has been a huge source of stability for me. My sister, 32F, and her husband, 35M, have been married for about 8 years. Their marriage has been rocky for a while, but they've been dealing with it privately until recently. A couple of months ago, she told me that they were separating. I was supportive of her because she's my sister, and I know she's been unhappy for a long time. She didn't have anywhere to go immediately, but my parents live nearby and offered for her to stay with them temporarily. That seemed fine to me. The problem started last week. My parents called me and told me that my sister's husband, let's call him Tom, is in a tough spot financially because he lost his job, and he has no friends or family nearby to stay with. My parents, who are very traditional and believe in family helping family no matter what, asked if I could let Tom stay with me until he gets back on his feet. They stressed that it's just temporary, maybe a month or two. I was immediately uncomfortable with the idea. First, I barely know Tom. We've met for family dinners a handful of times, and honestly, he always rubbed me the wrong way. He's controlling, has a temper, and I've witnessed him argue with my sister in ways that were extremely disrespectful and borderline manipulative. I also value my privacy immensely, and having a grown man living in my small apartment indefinitely, especially one I don't get along with, feels like a huge intrusion. I told my parents that I didn't feel comfortable having him stay at my place. I tried to explain that I don't want to get involved in their marital issues, and I don't think it's healthy for me to live with someone I don't trust. My parents were shocked and immediately started guilt-tripping me. They said things like, he's family too, you don't know what it's like to turn away someone in need, and it's not fair to leave him out on the street. I tried to reason with them, but they weren't listening. Then my sister called me. She sounded really upset and asked why I wouldn't help him. She told me that Tom has nowhere else to go and implied that I was being selfish. I tried to explain my side again, but she started crying and said things like, "You always think about yourself first, and I can't believe you'd let me handle this alone." It was heartbreaking to hear her upset, but I still didn't change my mind. I suggested alternatives instead. I offered to help Tom look for a short-term sublet, and I even offered to help him financially if he needed a deposit or something like that. I also suggested my parents could help more actively, or he could stay at a friend's place or a cheap Airbnb temporarily. My parents and sister both rejected these options. They kept insisting that since I have a free bedroom and I live alone, it's basically my duty to take him in. Things escalated further when my parents came over to talk to me in person. They spent 2 hours lecturing me about family obligations, morality, and responsibility. I stayed firm, but they left extremely upset and told me I was being cruel. My sister sent me messages all weekend, saying that she's disappointed in me as a brother and that family shouldn't abandon each other. Tom hasn't directly contacted me, but I assume he knows about the refusal because of my sister. Here's the thing. I genuinely don't feel safe having him in my home. My gut tells me that it will lead to arguments, tension, and possibly even confrontations. I've had moments where I noticed his controlling tendencies toward my sister, and I don't want to witness or be involved in any of that. I also worry about the mental toll it will take on me, because I've been working hard to build a life that is calm, predictable, and stress-free. I feel awful that my sister is upset, and I understand she's probably worried about Tom being homeless. But at the same time, I have my own boundaries, and I feel like my parents are disregarding them completely. They keep saying family comes first, but they don't seem to consider that sometimes family also means respecting each other's limits. So Reddit, am I really the asshole here for refusing to let my sister's husband move in temporarily? Or am I justified in setting this boundary, even though it upsets my family? I just want to maintain my own space and sanity, but it feels like everyone is turning on me for it. Hey friends, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding after she banned my partner from it. This is going to be long, so I appreciate you taking the time to read it. I, 28F, have always been close to my sister, Emma, 31F. We grew up together, shared everything, and even though we've had our typical sibling fights, I always thought we had each other's backs. My sister got engaged last year, and from the start, she was very particular about her wedding plans. I didn't think much of it first. I wanted her to have the day she wanted. The problem started when she told me she didn't want my partner, Alex, 30M, at the wedding. At first, I was shocked. Alex and I have been together for 5 years. We live together, share bills, and I honestly thought of him as part of the family. I asked her why, and she said it wasn't personal, but she had a very specific guest list, and Alex didn't fit into it. She claimed she wanted a small, intimate wedding with only people she had known forever and deeply connected to her childhood, and she didn't feel Alex met that criteria. I tried to reason with her. I reminded her that Alex has been supportive of me. He's met our family countless times, and he's treated my nieces and nephews like family. I told her that excluding him felt like a slap in the face, and it hurt that she would set me up in a position where I had to choose between her wedding and my partner. She acknowledged my feelings, but refused to budge. She insisted she had every right to curate her guest list however she wanted. At this point, I felt cornered. I love my sister, but I also love Alex. I didn't feel comfortable attending a day that she had made explicitly clear he couldn't be part of. I suggested a compromise, maybe a small ceremony with him included, or at least having him at the rehearsal dinner, but she shot all of it down. She said any compromise would ruin her vision, and that she was sorry I didn't understand how personal this was for her. After days of back and forth, I finally told her that I couldn't attend if Alex wasn't invited. I explained that I was not willing to put myself in a situation where I had to pretend he didn't exist or leave him out of a family celebration. She reacted very angrily, calling me selfish, dramatic, and even accused me of trying to sabotage her wedding over a minor issue. She blocked me on social media and hasn't spoken to me since. Our parents are split on the issue. My mom says she understands why I feel hurt, but also doesn't want to push Emma. My dad thinks Emma is being unreasonable and that a wedding shouldn't come at the cost of family relationships. A few of my mutual friends have reached out to say they're disappointed I won't be attending, but they also understand why. What makes this more complicated is that Alex and I have been discussing moving in together and potentially getting engaged in the next few years. I had already thought of him as someone I would eventually marry. So this wasn't just a one-off situation. This is about long-term inclusion in family events and being treated as part of my life. The fact that Emma made this choice without even talking to him first really stung. I also can't shake the feeling that there's more to it. Emma has a history of being controlling and obsessive about appearances. She's always wanted things to go perfectly in her own image. I think she genuinely sees Alex as disrupting that, even though he's never done anything to her. I feel like her vision for the wedding is trumping her relationship with me, which is painful. A few people have suggested I just go and grin and bear it for the sake of the family, but I don't think I can do that. I can't sit through a ceremony and reception where my partner isn't allowed to come, and I can't ignore the hurt and anger I feel. At the same time, I do feel guilty for letting this escalate into a full family rift. I've tried to reach out to Emma one last time to explain my perspective calmly, but she refused to respond. I've been dealing with a lot of emotional stress over this. I love my sister, and it's hard to imagine our relationship permanently damaged over a wedding. I even considered attending alone, but that felt hollow and unfair to Alex. He's been nothing but supportive and loving, and I can't bring myself to celebrate without him by my side. So here I am, stuck in this situation. I don't want to attend a wedding that excludes my partner, but I also don't want my sister to hate me forever. Friends and family are divided on whether I'm justified or overreacting. I've been replaying conversations over and over in my head, wondering if I'm being selfish. I truly don't think I am, but the guilt is gnawing at me. So Reddit, AITA for refusing to attend my sister's wedding because she banned my partner from it? This situation has been tearing me apart, and I honestly don't know how to navigate it without creating permanent tension. I feel like I'm standing up for myself and my relationship, but I also feel like I'm failing my sister in one of the biggest moments of her life. AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding dress I promised her after she ruined my engagement. I, 29F, got engaged about a year ago to my fiancé, Ethan, 31M. We've been together for 5 years, and I can honestly say I thought I'd found my person. We had a comfortable life together, great communication, and mutual respect, or so I thought. I also have a younger sister, Mia, 25F. We've always had a complicated relationship. Growing up, Mia was the golden child. She's beautiful, outgoing, and has always been the center of attention. I was more of the quiet, responsible type, the one who cleaned up her messes. Our parents often compared us, and while I've tried to move past the resentment, it's always been there in the background. When Ethan proposed, Mia was one of the first people I told. She squealed and cried and hugged me, saying she was so happy for me. She even offered to help me plan the wedding. I thought this might finally be a bonding moment for us. Fast forward 6 months, and I found my dream wedding dress. It was way out of my budget, but my grandmother, who passed away last year, left me a small inheritance specifically for something special. I used that money for the dress. It was classic, elegant, and I cried when I tried it on. When Mia saw it, she told me it was the most beautiful dress she'd ever seen. Now here's where things start getting messy. About 3 months ago, Ethan started acting distant. I assumed it was stress. He was working longer hours and seemed distracted. One night, I asked him if something was wrong. He brushed it off, saying he was just tired. Then, 2 weeks later, I got a message from one of Mia's friends. She sent me screenshots of messages between Ethan and Mia. They were flirty, then outright romantic, and then explicit. It wasn't just flirting. It had been going on for months. My world fell apart. I confronted Ethan, who admitted everything. He said it just happened, that Mia was so understanding and easy to talk to, and that he didn't mean to fall for her. Mia didn't deny it either. She said she never meant to hurt me, but that love can't be controlled. I ended the engagement on the spot and blocked Ethan. My family was shocked. My mom was furious at both of them, while my dad said he didn't want to take sides. Mia moved in with Ethan shortly after, and they made it official on social media a month later. I've tried to avoid them since, but our parents' house is a minefield because my mom refuses to uninvite either of us to family events. Now, here's the current issue. Last month, Mia announced that she and Ethan are getting married next spring. I found out through a Facebook post. She captioned it, "Sometimes love finds you in unexpected places." I nearly threw my phone across the room. A week later, she called me. She said she wanted to make peace and asked if I would consider letting her wear my wedding dress, the one I bought for my canceled wedding. She said it would be symbolic and that it would help us heal as a family. I honestly thought it was a prank. I laughed and said, "You can't be serious." But she was dead serious. She said she couldn't afford a dress right now and thought it would be wasteful for mine to just sit in a closet. I told her absolutely not. That dress was bought with my grandmother's money and was meant for the happiest day of my life, which she helped destroy. She got angry and said I was being petty and vindictive. She claimed she was trying to extend an olive branch and that I was too bitter to move on. The worst part? My dad called me later that night, saying Mia was crying and that it's just a dress. He told me that I should be the bigger person and let the past go. My mom, on the other hand, told me not to give in. She said if Mia really wanted to make peace, she wouldn't be marrying my ex in the first place. Now the family is split. Some relatives think I should let Mia have the dress as a gesture of forgiveness. Others think Mia has some serious nerve even asking. For the record, I haven't touched the dress since the day I called off the wedding. It's been hanging in my closet, still in its bag. I've thought about selling it, donating it, even burning it, but part of me can't let it go. It represents both a dream and a disaster. Mia sent me a text last week saying, "You don't need it anymore, but I do. Please don't make this harder than it has to be." I didn't respond. Then Ethan texted me, yes, Ethan, saying I should consider doing the right thing for family harmony. That message made me see red. I ended up posting in our family group chat, saying that if anyone brought up the dress again, I'd block them. I said I didn't know my sister or her fiancé anything, and if they truly wanted a fresh start, they should leave me out of it. Now my dad isn't speaking to me, and Mia has been telling people I'm spiteful and can't move on. My cousin told me that Mia said she's planning to find a way to get the dress anyway, which honestly makes me nervous. I've even started keeping the dress at my best friend's house because I don't trust Mia not to show up and try to take it. I know the situation is messy, and maybe I should be the bigger person, but I can't stomach the thought of her walking down the aisle in the dress that was supposed to be mine, marrying the man who betrayed me. So, AITA for refusing to give my sister the wedding dress I promised her, even though she's now marrying my ex. AITA for refusing to let my sister's kids stay in my house after what they did last time. So, for some background, I, 35F, bought my own house about 4 years ago after years of saving and renting awful apartments. It's not huge, but it's mine. I take a lot of pride in keeping it clean and organized because I work my ass off to get it. My sister, Jenna, 38F, is married with 3 kids, 10M, 8F, and 5M. I love them, but to be honest, her kids are wild. Every time I've hosted them, something ends up broken or stained, and Jenna just laughs it off as kids being kids. Last year, they came over for a weekend visit while my sister's house was being fumigated. I agreed because I wanted to be a good sister, but it turned into one of the most stressful weekends of my life. Within the first hour, her youngest spilled orange juice on my brand new couch, and when I tried to blot it out, Jenna said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's just a couch." Later that same night, the older 2 were playing hide and seek and decided to hide in my laundry room, where they knocked over detergent, which spilled everywhere and ruined a rug. When I mentioned it to Jenna, she literally said, "You can't expect them to sit still. They're kids, not robots." I didn't want to start a fight, so I bit my tongue, cleaned up the mess, and counted down the hours until they left. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago. Jenna calls and says they need to stay with me again for 3 nights because their house is getting some plumbing work done. I hesitated and told her I wasn't sure. She immediately started in with, "Come on, you have the space. You're their aunt. They love you." I told her I love them too, but last time things got kind of chaotic and I wasn't sure I could handle it again. She got quiet for a second, then said, "They were just being kids and you're acting like they trash your house." I told her honestly that yes, they did cause damage and I can't afford to replace things again. Jenna said she'd keep an eye on them, which is what she said last time too. I still said no. I told her that I was sorry, but I just couldn't host them this time. She got mad and said, "Wow, I didn't realize your couch meant more to you than your family." That stung, but I stayed firm. I said they could get a cheap Airbnb or stay with Mom for a few days. She hung up on me. A couple days later, Mom called me and said Jenna was really upset, saying I'd abandoned family when they needed help. Mom asked why I couldn't just let it go and host them for a few days. When I explained everything again, she sighed and said, "Kids grow up. They won't always be this messy. Don't hold a grudge." But here's the kicker. I found out from my cousin, who lives near Jenna, that they did end up staying somewhere else. But apparently Jenna told people I'm cold-hearted and obsessed with material things. I was embarrassed because a couple of mutual friends have been acting distant since then, like they believe her version of events. Now here's where things really blew up. Last weekend was my dad's birthday, and we all met up at a restaurant. I figured it would be awkward, but civil. Nope. As soon as I sat down, the 8-year-old loudly said, "Mom said we can't go to your house because you hate us." The whole table went silent. I looked at Jenna and asked, calmly, why she'd say something like that. She gave this fake, innocent look and said, "Well, you did ban my kids from your house. What do you expect them to think?" I told her I didn't ban them. I just didn't want to host them unsupervised because last time things got damaged. She rolled her eyes and said, "So you're blaming children for accidents?" I said, "I'm blaming a lack of supervision." That's when she snapped. She started going off about how I act superior because I don't have kids and that maybe if I knew what it was like to be a mom, I'd be more understanding. She said I value furniture over family and accused me of trying to make her kids feel unwanted. At that point, Dad intervened and told everyone to stop. The rest of dinner was painfully awkward. Afterward, Jenna sent me this long text saying she doesn't want her kids around someone who clearly resents them. She told me I'd ruined family trust. Here's where I might actually be the asshole. I responded to that message by saying, "I don't resent your kids. I resent your lack of boundaries and responsibility." She didn't reply, but Mom later called and said I'd gone too far and that sisters should support each other, even when things aren't perfect. Since then, my whole family seems divided. My brother said he gets where I'm coming from but thinks I could have handled it more tactfully. My aunt told me she thinks Jenna manipulates people and that I shouldn't feel guilty. But still, I can't shake the feeling that maybe I was being too harsh. The truth is, I adore my niece and nephews. I just can't deal with the chaos when Jenna refuses to parent them. It's not like I banned them for life. I just didn't want them staying overnight. But now I feel like the villain of the family, the uptight aunt who doesn't know how to have fun. To make things even more awkward, Jenna's been posting vague things on Facebook. Stuff like some people care more about things than love, and when family turns their back, you see their true colors. I haven't responded, but mutual friends have noticed and messaged me asking if everything's okay. Part of me wonders if I should just apologize to smooth things over, even though I don't think I did anything wrong. But another part of me feels like if I do that, I'm just reinforcing her belief that I'll always cave when she guilt trips me. What makes this harder is that I used to look up to Jenna. When we were younger, she was my best friend, funny, protective, confident. But since she had kids, it's like any criticism of their behavior is automatically an attack on her. It's impossible to talk to her without her taking everything personally. I've been thinking about inviting the kids over for a daytime visit, like an afternoon at the park or baking cookies together, something where there's supervision and boundaries. But I'm honestly scared she'd twist it into more drama or accuse me of trying to control her parenting again. I keep asking myself, was I wrong for drawing a line? Should I have just let them stay and dealt with whatever happened for the sake of family harmony? Or is it reasonable to want peace in my own home, even if it makes me look like the bad guy? So, AITA for refusing to babysit my sister's kids anymore after she called me lazy for not doing more around her house. I, 29F, have been helping my sister, 34F, with her 2 kids, ages 6 and 3, for almost 3 years. She's a single mom. Her ex-husband left when the youngest was born, and I genuinely love my niece and nephew. I work full-time as a graphic designer, mostly remote, and my schedule is flexible, so for a long time I would stop by her house after work, or sometimes on weekends, to give her a break. It started with me helping once or twice a week, but over time it turned into something close to daily childcare. I never charged her for it, because she's family, and I could see she was struggling. I'd feed the kids, play with them, help with bedtime, sometimes clean up around the house, and even run small errands for her. I thought I was doing something kind, and honestly, I like spending time with the kids. But I started noticing a pattern. The more I helped, the more she expected. About 6 months ago, she started asking me to just stay a bit longer so she could run a few errands, which turned into me being at her house from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. some nights. Then she'd ask me to pop in on Saturdays, which often meant watching the kids all day while she went out with friends. I tried to set some boundaries, but every time I did, she'd guilt-trip me. She'd say things like, "You don't understand how hard it is being a single mom," or, "If you really loved your niece and nephew, you'd want to help." Things came to a head 2 weeks ago. She had a big work presentation coming up and asked me to stay with the kids for 3 days straight so she could focus. She wanted me to stay overnight at her place, even though she lives 40 minutes away. I told her I couldn't do that because I had my own job and responsibilities. She immediately got upset and accused me of not supporting her during a stressful time. I told her I'd come by after work each day, but couldn't stay overnight. She huffed, but said fine. When I got there the first evening, the house was a disaster. Dishes piled up, laundry everywhere, toys all over the floor. I figured I'd tidy up while the kids ate dinner, because I can't function in chaos. I cleaned the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, folded some laundry. The next day, I came back to find it looked the same as before. She hadn't done anything, even though she was supposedly working from home. It was frustrating, but whatever, not my house. On the third day, I walked in to find her sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone while the kids ran wild. She looked up and said, "Can you make dinner tonight?" I didn't get around to it. I was exhausted from work, but I said sure and started cooking. She wandered into the kitchen and made a snide comment. "You know, if you weren't so lazy about cleaning, maybe this place would actually stay nice for once." I froze. I thought she was joking at first, but she wasn't. I asked what she meant, and she said, "You come here all the time, but it still looks like a mess when you leave. You could at least help me stay on top of things instead of just playing with the kids." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her I was helping her out of kindness, not as her maid. She rolled her eyes and said, "You act like you're doing me this huge favor, but you don't even have kids. You have no idea how hard it is. You could do more." That was it for me. I said, "You're right, I don't have kids, and I don't have to deal with this level of disrespect either." I packed up my things, told her to figure out herself, and left. She blew up my phone all night, calling me selfish and saying I abandoned her in the middle of a stressful week. My mom later called to tell me my sister was upset and that I should be the bigger person because family helps family. When I told her exactly what happened, she sighed and said, "You know how your sister is when she's stressed, just let it go." But I don't think I should have to. Since then, my sister has barely spoken to me except to send short, passive-aggressive texts like, "Kids miss their aunt," or "Must be nice having so much free time." I haven't gone over there since that night, and honestly, I feel relieved but also guilty. My niece and nephew keep asking when I'll come back, and it breaks my heart because I love them. But I can't keep letting my sister treat me like an unpaid employee. Last weekend, we had a small family gathering for our dad's birthday, and things were awkward. My sister avoided me most of the time, but at one point she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Some people just don't understand what real responsibility looks like." I ignored her, but my mom shot me a look like I should apologize. Later, my dad told me he understood my side, but suggested I patch things up for the kids' sake. I honestly don't know what to do. On one hand, I feel like I did nothing wrong. I've gone above and beyond for her. On the other, my family is making me feel like I've somehow betrayed her by stepping away. My sister has always been the golden child, the one everyone tiptoes around, and I think they just expect me to give in because it's easier. Part of me wonders if I should try to talk to her and set boundaries again, but I know how that goes. She'll cry, guilt me, and promise to do better, and then within a week I'll be back watching the kids while she naps. I don't want to cut her off completely, but I'm also tired of being taken advantage of. I keep replaying that moment in my head, her calling me lazy while I was cooking for her kids after working a full day, and I can't help but think maybe I've been enabling her this whole time. I wanted to help because I love my family, but somewhere along the way it stopped being help and became an expectation. So, AITA for refusing to babysit anymore after my sister called me lazy, even though it's made things tense with the whole family?